someone needs to step up for Rutgers.
I would say this is just another example of why people say Rob Manfred hates baseball.
Dylan has lost hope automatically after hearing that.
I really think that this team, more so than the men's team, can make a serious run in the NCAA tournament.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Keeping Score with Laney and Dylan, a podcast show dedicated to bringing analysis of Rutgers sports and sports around the country. I'm Laney.
And I'm Dylan.
And in today's episode, we welcome our sports writers, Jack and Ellis, to discuss the latest on Rutgers men's and women's basketball heading into March Madness and preview the start of the Major League Baseball regular season. So, Rutgers, we'll just start with the men's team. Got that overtime win against Minnesota. Jacob Young popping off what he does best. Pretty great game, if I must say so myself. Dylan, how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, Rutgers, big fans of giving their fans, pains and aches, watching them just try to do something that they should have done a week ago, which is, clinch their spot in the tournament. But, especially in overtime, Jacob Young really stepped up, had his biggest game and his biggest moment as a member of this program. And, we can talk about the last 6 minutes of the game and everything else, but the only important thing is Rutgers won, and they're probably a qualifying March Madness team now because of it, which is something this program hasn't done in 30 years. So super exciting stuff.
Yeah, you can't be for certain with March Madness, but on all likely purposes, the experts are saying that we're in the tournament. So that's really exciting. Unless there's a global pandemic that shuts everything down again, we're going to be in the tournament. So that's great news. And Jacob Young, I was so impressed watching him down the stretch, especially in overtime. He finished with 23 points, 7 assists, 4 steals, including that big steal at the end of regulation where Minnesota basically had a breakaway layup to win the game, and he stole it. Gio missed a shot, but, we went into overtime, and he scored or assisted on the first 3 baskets and had that clutch and one. So he was great. One issue I will say is, Dylan, you alluded to that. They alluded to the fact that they made us sweat it out a lot during those last 6 minutes. Good teams in March Madness close games. And if we blow leads like that in March Madness, we're going to be playing with a lot of fire. It just goes with experience, and we just got to hope that we can close games and, we could be able to make a run.
Yeah, and I think that the same story goes for Rutgers that I think we're discussing 2 podcasts ago or something like that. And the fact is, we don't know what we're getting with this Rutgers team. Defensively, we're there. I think this Rutgers team is among one of the best defensive teams in the country. But offensively, we do not know what we're getting from this team. And you see games against like Minnesota in the second half of the Indiana game. I know they're playing Indiana again, the Big Ten tournament, but when they last played them, where they pop off offensively, and they look like how they did in the beginning of the season when they were a top 20 team. And then you see games like Nebraska when they can't hit a shot. And if you can't hit a shot, you're not winning games, obviously. So they just look like one of the worst teams in basketball. So this Rutgers team has been very inconsistent. And my worry for this Rutgers team is in the Big Ten tournament, you have big teams like Michigan, like Iowa. These teams are going to hit shots in the clutch, and they're going to, no matter good defense, they're going to be hitting some of their shots. So Rutgers, despite their good defense, are going to have to hit shots in the clutch, as Jack said, and are going to have to especially threes. Gio Baker's going to have to hit shots, but I'm not sure they can do that for consistent 40 minutes. They've shown flashes where they can do that for 20, but I don't know if they can do that for consistent 40 minutes. But if they can, I think with the hustle, the heart this team shows, I think they could really, honestly, because as they showed they beat Illinois earlier in the season, they can beat anyone. But the consistency on three-point shooting and the offensive side of the ball is the key to the Rutgers game.
Yeah, I definitely agree that offense is more of like the part that Rutgers is questionable about. Their defense under Peichel is, done a great job, but their offense, it seems they run a high ball screen and that's about it. So they definitely need to be more dynamic going into the tournament if they want to make a deep run.
Talking about the Big Ten tournament, I'm really happy we ended up getting that 7th seed because we get to avoid Michigan State, who's playing really well right now. They beat number 4 Ohio State like a week or 2 ago, and they beat number 2 Michigan on Sunday. That's a red-hot team, and Maryland choked on Sunday night, so now they get to play them. I'm really happy about that. And we could also say we're 2-0 against Indiana. We're 1-0 against Illinois, like you said, Ellis. Illinois is red hot, the hottest team in the Big Ten, but, we could say that we beat them. We have a fighter's chance against them. We know that we could beat them. And Indiana, we played them twice. We shut down Tracy Jackson Davis in the first one. We played really well in that second game. We have everything in front of us. We definitely have everything in front of us.
Yeah, and I think I would like to see from this Rutgers team personally in the Big Ten tournament. They can win 1, 2, 3 games would be excellent, but definitely an upset in the Big Ten tournament I think would do great for their morale going into March Madness, because March Madness is called March Madness, and if a hot teams can get far in March Madness. But another thing I want to note based on like the offensive performance is someone needs to step up for Rutgers, because people are stepping up. Baker occasionally, Ron Harper, especially in the beginning of the season, stepped up. You saw Jacob Young step up last game, and he steps up occasionally too. But, when it comes to clutch time, you need a player that can hit the shots. Geo Baker is that player, but I don't know. He hasn't at times played like that this season. But someone from this Rutgers team it could even be Montez Mathis. He doesn't get as much playing time, but he's hit some crazy shots occasionally. And he had that really good game against Maryland earlier in the season. They just need someone to step up for them in the clutch and trade shot for shot from like a Michigan or like a Iowa with Luke Garza. They need a star to step up.
Yeah, I think that star, in my opinion, is Ron Harper Jr. When he scores 20 plus points in our games, we're 5-1, and the only loss is that game against Ohio State, the infamous game where Miles Johnson got those foul calls, and he had 20 points that game. So, we're 5-1. Ron Harper plays like an All-American, or how he was playing early in the season. Our success basically hinges on how well he's able to play. I mean, look at the Indiana game. He had his best game in like ages against Indiana, and we blew him out. If Ron Harper can really turn it around and become that scorer that we saw earlier in the season, Rutgers can make a really deep run in the tournament.
Yeah, when Ron Harper's shooting threes well, the space on the court just gets opened up.
So we can move on over to the women's team now, if we'd like. They are coming off of a red hot, I believe it's a 9-game winning streak. I mean, we saw them at the beginning of the season. They got kind of affected by COVID a little bit where they were out. But once they got back, I mean, they were back. There's no missing them. Going into their own tournament, I'm feeling pretty good about them. Honestly, if I have to say so myself, I feel more confident in our women's team than our men's team. Whenever they step on the court, I just expect them to win. And yeah, how are y'all feeling about the women's team?
I think that's definitely warranted, like, confidence, because, the women's team has been playing at a high level. They have ranked wins. They play a style that is very annoying to play against if you're another team. They press you all game, whether they're up by 30 or down by 30. And yeah, I think this women's team is really well put together. There's a lot of talent. Morelli Garantes and Diamond Johnson are two of the best players in the country, and they've shown it throughout the season with the statistics they put up. And this women's team is the best women's team I've seen as long as I've been a student. And I think this is the best women's team we've seen in a long time. And I really do think, the sky is the limit for them at the Big Ten tournament and even, beyond in the March.
I'm really impressed with this women's team. I really am. 9 straight wins is extremely difficult. And I saw yesterday the Big Ten women's awards came out for the Big Ten Conference. And Aurelia Garantes was Big Ten all-first team unanimously. And she averages 20 plus points a game. And I don't care what level you're on, whether it be high school, college, professional, 20 points plus per game is so difficult to do. And every successful team needs that person that, you can just say, all right, go get a bucket. And that's what Aurelia Garantes is. And this Rutgers women's team has basically everything that you need from a really good basketball team as well. With Garantes, who averages 21 points per game. Diamond Johnson is absolutely unconscious from 3. 46% is ridiculous from 3. And she averages 17 points per game on top of that. And Takia Mack was all Big Ten defensive team. And you add that to the fact that there's a Hall of Fame coach on the sideline. I really think that this team, more so than the men's team, can make a serious run in the NCAA tournament. I mean, I'm really excited to see what they do.
Yeah, the sky is the limit. They got that Big Ten bye. This team they play hard, and they're offensively really, really good. I mean, they already mentioned the 3 main contributors, but, I would put this team in women's basketball pretty much almost as high as UConn, Stanford, and maybe like South Carolina. Almost like they're that second echelon of elite. I'm not other than those three teams. I'm really not afraid of anyone Rutgers women's basketball plays. Their scoring margin is 20 points. They're outscoring their opponents by 20 points. And they're the 26th, just outside the top 25. They're the 26th team in points scored. And that's partly because they had a slow start to the season. If they had like the season they're having the end, like they're having now, they would be definitely in the top 25 points scored. Their offensively is tons of firepower. Defensively, they play full court press, and they really, as Dylan said, they're really annoying and to play defensively. And I really think this is their best chance for a run in a long, long time. Sky's the limit, yeah.
Well, in terms of basketball, one final thought, we will have our very own Dylan. He is going to the Big Ten tournament, so look out for any coverage for that from him. Very exciting things. That being said, let's move on to baseball, my favorite thing in the entire world. We talked about it a little bit beforehand. This whole thing, happened with COVID. Few new rules were brought in, and they are seeming to stay for this new season. One of them being the having a man start on second in extra innings. I personally think it is the worst rule that could possibly be brought on baseball. I think it's a disgrace to the game. I think if you're going to win a game, it doesn't matter what inning it's in, how long you've been playing. I think you got to start from the beginning. No help. You're playing professional baseball. I don't think we should be giving any of these people any sort of upper hand. If you're going to win, you should win it yourself. I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on this rule.
Well, I would say this is just another example of why people say Rob Manfred hates baseball. And he's validating to people why they say he hates baseball. Yeah, I really think that it's a dumb rule. You're really going to keep this rule. You're not going to give everyone a DH, but you're going to put runners on second in extra innings. Like, you don't give a basketball team 10 points to start the overtime. I really don't understand this.
Maybe I get why they're doing it because, Rob Manfred's whole thing is like, shorten playing time in extra innings or playing too long. I'm personally, maybe I'm a bit of a traditionalist, but I'm personally of the opinion that part of baseball's charm is the long playing time, right? You're never going to shorten it to where people like who watch football, basketball are satisfied. It's just not going to happen because it's baseball. But and again, this is a personal opinion, but when I like to watch baseball, I know I can, fold laundry, do some work. I don't have to pay super close attention to it. I can, it takes a day, but that's okay. Like, I think it's part of the charm of baseball. I think that like there's no need to give anyone a leg up. It just seems kind of tacky to me. To be honest, that's the best word for it. So I don't love it, but maybe I'm just a traditionalist.
Dylan, I like your thought about how you don't give 10 points to a basketball team to start overtime, because that's effectively what's going on here in baseball. Also like maybe you put someone on the free throw line to start overtime. I'm kind of like with you, Ellis. I don't really like, people changing the game. Kind of like messes up with records and stuff like that. I personally don't really like it. It's tough. I don't really like it. That's all I'll say.
Like Ellis was saying about how part of the charm of baseball is that it takes forever. I love that. I love how long a baseball game can take. And personally, when I go to them, I feel like they go by too quickly. So when you have something that makes the game shorter, and I get it, Manfred hates baseball, whatever. He wants games to be shorter. He wants to appeal to somebody with a short attention span. Fine, whatever. I personally hate it, and I think that a lot of really big baseball fans aren't a big fan of it. I know it's a really big debate. Some people find it more exciting, more high energy. I find it cheap. I think if you want to do that for T-ball, if you don't want to watch your 8-year-old play T-ball for 5 hours, sure, go ahead and make that rule. But these are professionals, and I feel like if they can't score without having a runner on second to start the inning, then maybe we should rethink who haven't played professional baseball. But anyways, that's my tirade on that. Do you guys have any hot takes when it comes to the season? Will Mike Trout finally be able to do his thing? Will he be able to shine in the offseason? Postseason, sorry, not offseason, but any hot takes for the season?
My hot take is like probably a cold take But I think if the Yankees stay healthy, they're going to win the World Series. I think this is pretty much the debate of every year. In March every year, the Yankees are the World Series champions. They have the best looking roster. They have, arguably other than the Dodgers, I guess. The Dodgers are kind of stacked at this point. But, if everything stays healthy, which, I mean, Zach Britton has already gone for an MRI. So, but I don't know. I think maybe this is the year. I can never tell.
I was just about to say Zach Britton is undergoing left elbow surgery.
It's
20
surgery?
minutes ago. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? The Dodgers are just gonna repeat. They're just gonna repeat. It's fine.
A live
They're too good.
switch. A live switch mid podcast.
Dylan has lost hope automatically after hearing that. The
It's
Dodgers
just gonna
are
be
definitely.
like this the entire season. It's gonna be like this the entire season.
I don't care. That's how my life has always been as a Mets fan. It's always been people getting hurt left and right. So you know what? It's your turn to deal with it. Have fun with that. Like you were saying with the Dodgers, though, I definitely do see them becoming this sort of powerhouse. With baseball, though, I have to say it is a lot harder to do that, I would say, than other sports. We haven't really seen it as much other than, the Yankees, but their time frame spans so wide and large. Baseball is just so unpredictable. So this whole idea of maybe the Dodgers becoming a Warriors type team, it doesn't sit as well with me just because I feel like it's harder for teams to do that with baseball than basketball. But I don't know if I'm alone in that thought.
Even if healthy, I think the Yankees are the third best team. And speaking on the Dodgers, clear favorites, but we can't forget their division rivals, the Padres, who I actually think are the second best team in all of baseball, adding Blake Snell, adding Yu Darvish. Tatis, big contract, is a star. And of course, Manny Machado, who people seem to have forgotten, but is still, in my opinion, pretty elite. So yeah, I think they can contest it. It's going to be hard to beat the Dodgers. But roster-wise, just stacking rosters up, I think you can say these are relatively even rosters on the for the season. And I'm not sure who's going to win it. I'm going to say the Dodgers right now if I'm kept to give a prediction, just because it's the Dodgers and they've kind of been a powerhouse in that division for about 5 years now. I want to say something around that. But the Padres, this might be their year to take the Dodgers throne. And yeah, the Yankees. I'm a Yankees fan, but it's just I'll watch them all slowly get injured to all hell, and it is what it is.
I will add at the end that saying the Dodgers are like a Warriors type team is a huge statement because the Warriors are like the best teams I've ever seen in my life. The Dodgers, from my baseball watching experience, are always in either the NLCS or they're in the World Series every year, and they finally pushed through and won a title last year. So, they're going to be in the mix, but like you said, Laney, baseball is so unpredictable. It's probably the most unpredictable sport, right up there with football and probably in the world. You can't really predict 8-9 months away, they're however many months away we are from the World Series, who's going to win, but there's a lot of variables, but I do think the Dodgers are going to be up there.
I don't know. I kind of want to contest that point. I'm not sure how I feel like always there's 5 teams, not 5, maybe a little higher, but 8 teams that can make the World Series. It's not I guess it's a little unfair because I'm comparing it to football, in which I feel like you don't know which team. There's 15 teams that possibly can make the World Series and you cannot predict it. And I guess that's unfair because in basketball it's way more predictable. But with baseball, I always feel like there's 8 teams that you can say are probably going to make the World Series, and they usually do. Now, based on those 8 teams, it's relatively the variability is there. And again, I think that's slightly unfair because it's way more unpredictable than basketball, but I think it's less predictable than football, which I don't think you really do know who's going.
I think baseball and I would say hockey usually are on the same sort of level of unpredictableness. But
Yeah.
I think with the World Series, yes, it's you have more of an idea, but I think with the playoffs just in general, I've at least been surprised by some teams that have pulled it off. I know late season pushes are super big. As Noah Syndergaard likes to say, a team can be a second half team. That All-Star break is incredibly crucial to a lot of teams to make that push. So we could be having a conversation at the beginning of the season. Again, it's such a long season. It's another thing about baseball. There's so many games to be played. So at the 60 game mark, you could be saying this team are going to be in it. And then at 162 game mark, we could be in a totally different situation. So I definitely love that about baseball. I definitely think that it's one of the things that draws me into it, because at the very beginning of the season, you could think that your team is going to win the World Series. And at the end of the season, you could be in dead last. But before we wrap things up, I want to hear everybody. I know it's long way away, but who is your World Series prediction? It might be dumb to think of it right now, but I just want to hear. Who do you think is going to win the World Series this year?
Well, one thing I wanted to say is going back to that comment by Noah Syndergaard, what does he know about being a second half of the season player?
Yeah.
He doesn't make it. He doesn't make it to the second half of the season.
First of all, I'm going to stop you right there. His quote was, "We're a second half team." Okay. So it doesn't necessarily matter. First,
So
actually, you know what, Dylan?
They're better
You know what,
without him,
Dylan?
is what you're saying.
No. You know what, Dylan? First of all, one of his very first seasons, he was a second half player. We pulled him up for the playoffs. And may I remind you, the only World Series win that the Mets had in 2015 was the game where Noah Syndergaard was on the mound. So I personally will not tolerate any Noah Syndergaard slander. The day that he tore his lat, pitching to Bryce Harper was the worst day of my life. So I will not have you come on here and disrespect Noah Syndergaard like that. I think he's going to have a great comeback. Don't sigh at me. I think he's going to have a great comeback year. I think you're going to be absolutely just shocked. He has a book club. I don't know if you know that. He's been reading. He's been eating a bunch of meat. If that's what helps him go, by all means. But I will not tolerate any slander here.
I think Noah Syndergaard is going to have a great comeback 2 months, and then we'll see what happens after that with the injuries.
You know what? You Yankee fans, I can't anymore. What you think? Do you think Cole is better than DeGrom? You probably do, don't you?
Actually,
No, DeGrom is the
DeGrom's
best
fault.
pitcher of this generation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
DeGrom
At least we
was-
can agree. At least we can agree on that.
DeGrom would have 150 wins right now if he played with a competent baseball team.
All right.
His record's
You know
like
what?
60 and 60.
The Mets are the classic, like all the Mets fans like that I met, they're like the first 20 games of the season. Oh yeah, we're going. And then like it all comes crashing down every season. Every season there's hope and it all comes crashing
Right.
down.
That's really how
Let me
it
just
is, honestly.
so let's just for let me just ask you though, when was the last time I'm just in the last 10 years, who was the only New York team to make it to the World Series? I would say not the Yankees. So
You're a Mets fan trying to argue with Yankees fans by using success as a metric?
You know
It's
what?
the last
Look,
thing you can argue with us about.
well,
No, but I will say, to be fair to the Mets, they're probably going to win like 95 games and win the NL East this year because they're gross. Their lineup is gross. Jeff McNeil and Francisco Lindor and Pete Alonso, if he hits above 240, will be incredible. They might win the East. I don't see them going to the World Series. They're just their bullpen's not good enough. Straight up, I don't believe it is. I was just gonna say my World Series prediction is mad basic, but it's Yankees Dodgers, and if they get there and they're healthy, I like the Yankees because I think they're just due to pull one out.
For my World Series prediction, I'm guessing I'm going to go a little bit off, like just because I want to say Yankees Dodgers, but I'll just go Padres because I really like the team and the construction, and I don't know. I really don't I want to say Yankees as a Yankees fan, but I really just don't trust this team to make the World Series. But you know what? As a Yankees fan, give me my bias. They're going to pull one out, and I'll give them and I'll say they'll play the World Series against the Padres and lose. Yeah, I'll go with that. But in terms of the NL East, I think the Mets definitely have a big chance of pulling the division. But I also think the Braves, their hitting is very good. I think that I think they still it's not I don't think it's a runaway Mets division.
I definitely agree. I think the NL East is always very interesting, and it's probably just because I'm a Mets fan. It's always nail biting, and as somebody that grew up as a Mets fan living in Atlanta, I have such a fiery passion for hating the Braves, and they always rain on my parade. So I want to say that we're going to win the division, but I don't know. As for the World Series, you know what? I'd like to say that maybe we'll get there. And just to piss Dylan off, I'm going to say we're going to win the World Series and Noah Syndergaard will be the MVP of the whole damn thing.
Yankees finally do it.
All
Yes.
right.
I don't know how that
Whatever.
would happen, but it'll happen.
It's not going to happen. That's my piece. Dylan, you want to give us the outro for that?
And that's all for today. Make sure to join us next time on Keeping Score for more sports updates. And make sure to follow the Daily Targum on our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube for more content.